Of course, Jayalalitha was not going to arrest me because she had very bitter experience in the past when I sent her to jail. Ram Jethmalani started filing defamation cases against me, and I could not afford lawyers. They were charging too much. So I myself walked into the court and started arguing, and I defeated him. I've never lost a defamation case, even though so many defamation cases were filed against me. Jayalalitha filed, in fact, 126 defamation cases against me. And one of them is because I said in Tamil, Kazideki kalpuram vasam enna theriyum, koranguku poo enna theriyum, poo male enna theriyum. And so she filed a case against me and went to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court Chief Justice said to the lawyer of Jayalalitha, what are you objecting to? That she is a monkey or a donkey? Mover of the Constitution, who led the debate, made the amendments, and finally produced a constitution on the 26th of November 1949, was Dr. Ambedkar. One name missing is Jawaharlal Nehru. But everybody thinks that Jawaharlal Nehru did everything. He was nowhere in the picture. The only time Jawaharlal Nehru intervened in the entire constitution was when he spoke on behalf of Sheikh Abdullah. Dr. Ambedkar said what? He says, go tell Nehru I am not a traitor. I will never agree to Article 370. So Jawaharlal Nehru then went to Sardar Patel and said, please help me, we are in a difficult situation, this, that. So Patel also tried to persuade Dr. Ambedkar. He said, no, I'm not a traitor. I will not agree to this. Once at the OIC of Hyderabad, we had a big disagreement in Parliament debate. He said, I'm different. I've come from somewhere else. I said, there's only one way to prove where you came from. Let's go in Hyderabad, which is hometown. There is a biometric laboratory. Let's go and test our DNA. He never came. He still refused to come. Because all Indians have the same DNA, whether they are in the south or the north or east or west. Maybe in the peripheral, when you have a border population, it can have something. I remember when Jayendra Swami, the Shankaracharya then, when he was arrested by Ms. Jayalalitha, he was the only one I know, of course, except myself. I was also, but I am not afraid at any occasion. So, but at that time, when his organization, the RSS, the Janata Party, or Bharatiya Janata Party as it was called, all of them were totally frightened of what Jayalalitha would do. Because if anybody spoke in support of Swami Jayendra Saraswati, he too would be arrested. But I saw that Vedantam ji was taking a very tough stand. He arranged public meetings, which I attended. Of course, Jayalalitha was not going to arrest me because she had very bitter experience in the past when I sent her to jail. So, therefore, but there was somebody who had to organize meetings, and all over Tamil Nadu, meetings were arranged by single-handedly by Vedantam ji, and therefore it led ultimately to the Supreme Court giving, striking down the bail, and Jayendra Saraswati came out unscathed with full honors. I asked Jayalalitha that, you did this something very wrong. Don't you think you should do prayaschit? So she said to me, I have already lost the election, so that's my prayaschit. But she said, let me tell you also that the police officer who arrested Jayendra Saraswati, his eyes are gone, his legs have got gangrene, and he's about to die, and he died. So even the gods were angry, and that happened. So today when I speak to you about law, I would like you to understand that the most important thing for democracy is a knowledge of law. And law should be learned by everybody. It's quite easy to learn. Everybody thinks I'm a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. I'm an economist. I was a professor of economics. And Ram Jethmalani started filing defamation cases against me, and I could not afford lawyers. They were charging too much. So I myself walked into the court and started arguing, and I defeated him. I've never lost a defamation case, even though so many defamation cases were filed against me. Jayalalitha filed, in fact, 126 defamation cases against me. And one of them is because I said in Tamil, Kaideki Kalpuram enna theriyum, Koranguku poo enna theriyum, poo male enna theriyum. And so she filed a case against me and went to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court Chief Justice said to the lawyer of Jayalalitha, what are you objecting to, that she is a monkey or a donkey? Because she can't be both, and dismiss the matter. So I am of the view that today I will give you a brief picture of our legal system, which is the topic given to me. And I would urge all of you, particularly those of you who have children or grandchildren, that make it a point that after they have qualified in any of their favorite subjects like engineering or electronics or whatever, that they should also learn law, because it's an enormous strength in society when the other side knows that you know the law and you can defend yourself. Ours is not a copy of the British system. Yes, we have something called Parliament, which is like the British Parliament, but that is only in name. We are governed by a constitution. Britain has no constitution. Britain is only the Queen or the King, now the King. So we are not followed the British system as is being taught daily in schools and colleges. We are following our own system, which is based on the Constitution. If anything, there is a similarity, I would say the American system is similar, because they also have a constitution and a Supreme Court, and on that basis the country functions. Now, what are the things that you need to know in the Constitution? I would say the most important thing you would know, should read. All of you need not get such a big book of the Constitution like I brought, but you can get a much thinner book of just the articles of the Constitution. The most important thing is that three great leaders of India had come together in 1946 and led the Constituent Assembly to formulate a constitution. The British were planning to leave, so therefore in advance it was decided that we should have a constitution. The British were angry about it. They said, no, why do you need a constitution? You should just follow our methods. But these three leaders, we must remember forever. The president of the Constituent Assembly was Rajendra Prasad. The chairman of the Committee on Fundamental Rights, which is a very important thing, guarantee of your fundamental rights. The chairman of the Fundamental Rights Committee was Sardar Patel. And the mover of the Constitution, who led the debate, made the amendments, and finally produced a Constitution on the 26th of November 1949, was Dr. Ambedkar. One name missing is Jawaharlal Nehru. But everybody thinks that Jawaharlal Nehru did everything. He was nowhere in the picture. The only time Jawaharlal Nehru intervened in the entire Constitution was when he spoke on behalf of Sheikh Abdullah to bring into the Constitution, right at the end, Farooq Abdullah came to Dr. Ambedkar, because without Dr. Ambedkar, no new item could be introduced in the Constitution. He came to Dr. Ambedkar, and Farooq Abdullah said, then Nehru has sent me to tell you that there should be one more article of the Constitution, that is Article 370. So Dr. Ambedkar said what? He says, go tell Nehru I am not a traitor. I will never agree to Article 370. So Jawaharlal Nehru then went to Sardar Patel and said, please help me, we are in a difficult situation, this, that. So Patel also tried to persuade Dr. Ambedkar. He said, no, I'm not a traitor. I will not agree to this. So therefore, Gopal Swami Iyengar, who was from Madras, his son was G. Parthasarathi. Gopal Swami Iyengar was then Diwan of Kashmir. So he was asked to preside over the Constituent Assembly, and that's how Article 370 came. But Sardar Patel said it is going to be temporary. It is an ad hoc thing because there's a war going on between India and Pakistan in Kashmir, and Kashmir is merged into India, so therefore we have to look at it this way, that this is something for the time being. But unfortunately it went on and went on till the BJP came to power, and one of the few things we have done is remove Article 370 forever. And now there is no way you can say that this is a temporary matter. Kashmir is not a temporary matter. It's a part of India, and nobody can separate it. When people tell me, no, when some Muslims tell me, no, Kashmir, there are so many Muslims, I said, yeah, but Islam is much later than Hinduism. He said, but all those people have disappeared. I said, no, my Gotra is Kashyapa, and Kashyap comes from Kashmir, so Kashmir is mine, not yours. So in the formation of India is something that all of you must read. The preamble. What does the preamble say? Its preamble says, we the people of India resolve to constitute into India a sovereign democratic republic. During the emergency, Mrs. Gandhi added two more: socialist, secular. That's illegal. That's unconstitutional. So I've got a case in the court, and within the next 4 months you will see the Supreme Court will delete it because it's illegal. How can you have a political ideology as in the Constitution? So yes, the only thing you can have is say we the people of India solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign democratic republic. That's all India is. Then it goes on to say one thing more, which I tell many of my friends. India is not a secular country, nor it is a single religion country. What it says is that in the Constitution, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship, all equally valid and a part of the Constitution. Or at least the preamble of the Constitution, which comes before the articles of the Constitution. In other words, India is a religious country, but it recognizes all religions as valid and protected by the Constitution. That is not the same thing as secular. Secular means that you have nothing to do with religion. That's not so. There's plenty in the Constitution which I can show you has to do with religion. If you go to the directive principles, you will find it says, you shall not slaughter a cow. That's there in the Constitution. Same thing with Uniform Civil Code. That's in the Constitution. So the Constitution is something that you must read, learn, and have the confidence that we are a country. Are we a Hindu country? You don't have to say that you're a Hindu country. All these beliefs are Hindu beliefs. Does Islam accept that any other religion can survive in their country? No. Muhammad has said it very clearly. You are dhimmis. You can be, either you have to convert or do menial work. Christianity puts it in a more sophisticated terms, but it's also the same, our way or the highway. These religions are not Hindu based. Yes, the Sikhs believe all religions lead to God because they came from us. Buddhists came from us. They also same thing. All religions lead to God. And Jainism also says the same thing. So that is also brought in the Constitution by stating that the Hindu means including Sikhs, Buddhists, and Jains. So the Indian Constitution, in my opinion, we don't have to make it into a Hindu constitution, as some people say, no, we must scrap this constitution, have a Hindu Rashtra constitution. Hindu Rashtra is already here. What is it that you want in Hindu Rashtra which is not here? You ask these ignorant people, they can't reply. This constitution, therefore, is something that you have to learn and educate yourself by reading it. You don't have to be a lawyer to know this. You just have to read it, understand it, read it once, twice, thrice, and then argue with some people, but you will be able to get it. The second point that I want to mention is that this constitution cannot be scrapped. You can amend it, but only some things you can amend. The constitution has a basic structure. You cannot remove democracy. You cannot remove fundamental rights. So there's a basic structure, and that basic structure, the Supreme Court finally decided it in 1973 and adopted it, because Mrs. Gandhi was going on amending the constitution. She was going to make it into a dictatorship. And so this basic structure is another concept you should memorize, learn, and use it in arguments. Then we have the fundamental rights. And the fundamental rights are many. They start with Article 13. And if you go on reading it, Article 19 tells you have freedom of speech. You can say what you like. But to all these fundamental rights, there is one proviso: subject to reasonable restrictions. So subject to reasonable restrictions means that you can't say anything you like. You cannot say that I have my freedom of right to say that Islam is a barbarian religion. No, that you cannot say. because that is unreasonable freedom. That will create a racket. So, therefore, fundamental rights are another thing that you have to learn in your understanding of the Constitution. And I think Constitution, even if it is self-taught, it's extremely essential. Otherwise, you will again get carried away by people who will give you speeches and mislead you and tell you what is possible, what is not possible. So this is one aspect. Now, I would also ask you to understand, because we are in Chennai, which is part of Tamil Nadu, which is led by DMK, and most of them are illiterates because they don't want to argue with me. They can threaten others, but if they threaten me, I will dismiss their government. I've done it once before. In 1991, I told Karunanidhi, you are getting LTT people here into Chennai hospitals. Not allowed. You can't do it. So he said, they are our Tamils. I said, they may be your Tamils, but they are not citizens of India. The hospitals here are meant for the citizens of India, and they are not citizens of India. And they are fighting our troops, killing them. We cannot allow it. So he told me at that time, in that case there will be a revolt. I said, try and see what happens to you. And the next day, we dismissed the government. And I was told by Karunanidhi, Rattathora aa rodum. I looked and looked, I couldn't see any Ratham. And then we held elections. Out of 234 seats, how much did the DMK get? Only 2 seats. They told me this will happen, that will happen, there will be fire, the buses will be burned. Even a cycle was not burnt. So this is the core of India, which the Constitution gives you. How can you dismiss a government? Article 356. And who can dismiss it? On the recommendation of the cabinet. At that time I was in the cabinet. Chandrasekhar was the Prime Minister. And I was the senior most minister at that time. Venkatraman was the president. He was a bit hesitant. And I asked him, what is your real problem, Mr. Venkatraman? He said he had some houses in Kirpak or something like that. Huh? Koturpuram, yeah, something like that. So I said, don't worry, we'll compensate you, but you sign here. And he signed. And that's how, with the president's signature, we got it done. And I said to the DMK even today, if you want, we can dismiss you. Nothing will happen. So please be careful what you say. I'm happy to see that Stalin, not the son, but the father. No, I'm talking about the father. He is now trying to moderate. MK Stalin, yes. He is now the chief minister, so he's definitely trying to moderate. We welcome that. And sometimes I have a sneaking feeling that his wife goes to temples, so maybe her influence is responsible for him becoming. Otherwise, all these DMK people, all these people who want to break away, all these Tamil people, all those who say that nobody else but us are Tamils, everybody else is a foreigner, all this nonsense must stop. And otherwise, the center is strong enough to dismiss this government. And the Constitution provides for it. That whenever the nation is in danger, the states can be dismissed. We are not a federal country. Our Constitution is not a federal constitution. It's a unitary constitution. And it's there in the Constitution. Tell me one place where it says it's federal. I've asked many times. For all that my arguments with the DMK, Karunanidhi and I were very good friends. And we have argued many points. One day he told me, we'll never ever accept Sanskrit. I said, why? Because it's not Tamil. I said, but your name Karunanidhi is Sanskrit. Why don't you change your name? He said, that is my father's responsibility. He gave me this name. Then I said, why you call your election symbol as Udayan, Suryan? That is also Sanskrit. You say, for a symbol, you say Chinnam. That's also Sanskrit. If you go to the dictionary of Tamil Hindi, there's a dictionary which has come out called Tamil Hindi, you will find 40% of the words of Tamil are also in Sanskrit. If you don't like me saying that it is Sanskrit, I'm willing to say we took it from Tamil, no problem. But they are the same. 40% of the words of Tamil are Sanskrit. So therefore, India is one country, nobody can break it again. The past is over, and therefore, institutes that are being formed, they should, I am very, very pleased to see in the name, in this great names, you have decided to set up the institute, and and the library is already made a head start. We will be able to educate people here fearlessly that India is one country. We are one people. We are one people. Why? Because of the DNA studies which have been published by the University of Cambridge, London, Cambridge University, and the Houston University in the United States, and the Mysore University in India, that the DNA of all Indians, whether they are Brahmins, or so, nobody is a born Brahmin according to Lord Krishna. It is gunas. If you are a Jnani, Tyagi and Sahasi, you are a Brahmin. You don't have to be born to Brahmin parents to be a Brahmin. Vishwamitra was born to Kshatriya parents, but he became the Rishi of Rishis. So they are all out-of-date concepts. If you are a Jnani, Tyagi and Sahasi, you are courageous and you are not after material prosperity and you are a knowledgeable person, you qualify to be a Jnani anywhere. I've always been saying, people get sometimes angry that Dr. Ambedkar was a Brahmin, but Jawaharlal Nehru was not a Brahmin, because they didn't have Ambedkar had the qualities of a Brahmin. Therefore, otherwise, DNA-wise, my DNA and Ambedkar's DNA is the same. Once at the OIC of Hyderabad, we had a big disagreement in the parliament debate. He said, I'm different, I've come from somewhere else. I said, there's only one way to prove where you came from. Let's go in Hyderabad, which is hometown. There is a biometric laboratory. Let's go and test our DNA. He never came. He still refused to come, because all Indians have the same DNA, whether they are in the south or the north or east or west. Maybe in the peripheral, when you have a border population, it can have something. That's a minuscule number. All India today must realize that they are Indian. So law teaches you all that. And therefore, learning law is very necessary. I particularly say to girls and women, learn law as soon as you can. You will see the strength that comes to you immediately. Once you know the law, nobody can frighten you. And learning the law is an extremely important part. It has always been extremely important in advanced countries. But it's time that in India also we do the same. Thank you very much.